Hi everybody! So NASA just selected the two winners of their latest spacesuit competition with the goal of designing the next generation of spacesuits, destined not only for the Artemis missions, but also for the ISS as well. The winners in question are Axiom Space and Collins Aerospace, and they have been selected to deliver an indefinite quantity of spacesuits through a contract that will be milestone based. That is, NASA will pay most of the money only after certain milestones have been achieved. Some funding will be destined for development, but most of it will be paid after the companies have delivered. The total value for all task order awards will be $3.5 billion, and so Axiom and Collins are eligible to compete to provide these new spacesuits. Now, this is great news for both companies, especially Axiom have been making a name for themselves lately. However, I think it's a little bit of a bummer that both companies are hoping to demonstrate their suits in lower Earth orbit no earlier than 2025, which, if I have to be honest, I doubt that will be the actual date. I rather expect it to be sometime in 2026 at the earliest. And of course, since these are suits that are expected to be used in the Artemis missions, that means no humans on the moon until later in this decade. Now, I want to go ahead and talk about SpaceX's EVA suits. Many have been wondering whether the spacesuit SpaceX is developing was included in this NASA competition, and the answer is no. SpaceX is making its own spacesuit for its own Polaris mission, and these have nothing to do with the suits that NASA wants for the ISS and the lunar missions. Besides, NASA wants self-sufficient spacesuits that you can go and do spacewalks and moonwalks with, whereas the EVAs SpaceX are currently developing are tethered to the spacecraft. Now, there are also some hardcore SpaceX fans who seem to be unhappy with the fact that SpaceX didn't win the spacesuit contract, and I'm also a SpaceX fan, but obviously SpaceX can't always win, and I don't think they should either. In the long term, it makes a lot more sense to foster a healthy diversity of companies for the space industry to prosper and thrive. Besides, the government seems to be still struggling to move away from the traditional methods and embrace cooperation with private companies. And since SpaceX has already won many contracts in the past, including the massive HLS contract, if commercial space is perceived as SpaceX only, well, maybe that's not the best idea if you want to maintain government support. Now, I want to talk about a hypothetical scenario where SpaceX is able to deliver Starship HLS way before the spacesuits are ready, but they don't necessarily want to wait any longer. If that were to happen, I think it would be reasonable to expect that SpaceX could go ahead and develop their own EVA spacesuit that they can use on the moon. They will already have some useful experience from developing the tethered spacesuit for the Polaris mission. Furthermore, if SpaceX is able to develop their own lunar spacesuits, then I think it will be really easy for them to develop the Martian version of those spacesuits, or at least they would be able to do so more easily. Now, I don't really think SpaceX will go to the moon without NASA. It just doesn't make any sense to me. They both can benefit so much from each other, both NASA and SpaceX. Plus, they have a contract with each other to go to the moon together in the Artemis 3 mission. So yeah, I don't think we will see SpaceX going on their own without NASA to the moon. I think that would be more plausible to see for going to Mars, especially Elon. But still, I don't think they will go without NASA. I mean, I don't see that scenario happening. But yeah, why not? I just wanted to point that out. Now, when it comes to spacesuits, I think that regardless of what happens, SpaceX will probably develop their own EVA suits for the moon and for Mars. At least I think that's a real possibility. But for now, I expect both Axiom and Collins to deliver great products within a reasonable time period. And anyway, realistically, I don't see Starship HLS ready to take astronauts to the moon before 2025. I'd love to be wrong about this. And of course, it will always depend on many factors, especially I think on how well the orbital tests of Starship go. But regardless, I think expecting Starship HLS to be ready at least in 2025 rather than 2024 is a much more realistic goal. And I just realized that we are entering new grounds, a new age of commercial EVA suits. You know, we're used to only seeing the traditional NASA EVAs, and suddenly now we have several companies making their own EVAs. So this is definitely new, but also really exciting for the future of spaceflight, and I couldn't be happier about it. So this is it for this one. Thank you for tuning in and watching until the end. Take care, and until next time, bye bye.